There is a document from ancient Mesopotamia that continues to confuse historians, archaeologists, and linguists. It's not a myth. It's not a legend. It's written like a normal administrative record, the same way ancient scribes documented taxes, grain shipments, and temple donations. This document is known as the Sumerian King List, and it contains one of the most controversial statements in the history of archaeology. Before we continue, if you like clear and direct videos about ancient civilizations and their mysteries, feel free to leave a like. It helps this content reach more people. The King List was discovered in several clay tablets, with the most complete version found in the ancient city of Larsa. What makes it unusual is how calmly it describes something that seems impossible. It states that the earliest kings of Sumer, the ones who ruled before a great flood, lived for thousands of years. Not figuratively, not symbolically, literally. Examples from the list include Al-Yalim, who ruled for 28,800 years, Alaugar, 36,000 years, Enmenluana, 43,200 years. These numbers are not similar to any known human lifespan, and yet the document records them matter-of-factly, as if it were simply listing historical facts. This is where the Anunnaki enter the discussion. In Sumerian tradition, the Anunnaki were described as powerful beings connected with the heavens, sometimes judges, sometimes advisors, sometimes figures who interacted with early humans. They were not described in the same way as the later, more familiar gods of Greece or Rome. Their role was closer to overseers, or figures who shaped early civilization. The King List directly connects to this idea through one specific phrase. It states that kingship descended from heaven. This sentence appears repeatedly, especially when describing the earliest rulers. Not was chosen, not was created, but descended. This is the detail that causes endless debate, because when you combine rulers with impossible lifespans, rulers who descended into ancient cities, and rulers who appear right at the foundation of human civilization, you get the core of the Anunnaki mystery. For many historians, the numbers are symbolic. They may represent lunar years, seasonal markers, or exaggerated honorifics. But the problem is consistency. Once the flood occurs in the document, the lifespans suddenly drop to realistic human ranges: 40 years, 30 years, 18 years. If the early numbers were symbolic, why did the scribes stop using the same system later? This inconsistency is one of the main reasons the King List receives so much attention. And it becomes even more interesting because the Sumerians were not known for writing fiction. Their tablets were overwhelmingly practical: administrative notes, receipts, trade agreements, astronomical observations, and religious rituals. So when a document with this tone describes something extraordinary, it stands out. If you enjoy straightforward deep dives like this into historical records and their mysteries, consider subscribing. It helps support more content like this. Another detail worth noting is how the King List treats the Great Flood. Unlike later stories that turn the flood into a mythological event, the Sumerian tablet treats it like a historical boundary, a divider between two eras. Before the flood, kings with lifespans of thousands of years. After the flood, kings with normal lifespans. The transition is sharp, immediate. Something changes in the world according to the scribes. This makes the King List one of the earliest sources connecting the flood story with the idea that something, or someone, altered the course of civilization. Now, the Anunnaki theory isn't based on modern imagination. It started with the fact that the Sumerians themselves attributed the origins of their knowledge to beings from the heavens. These beings appear in texts connected with agriculture, city planning, and astronomy. For example, the Sumerians knew the approximate length of the year with extraordinary accuracy. They built the first known cities. They developed one of the first writing systems. And according to their own texts, much of this was taught to them. This is where the King List acts like a bridge. It's a document that blends the historical with the extraordinary without changing tone. And that calm, administrative style makes the unusual details harder to dismiss. There is another important element. The cities mentioned, Eridu, Bad Tibra, Larak, Sippar, and Shuruppak, were real. Archaeology confirms their existence. So the King List is not describing imagined places. It is describing real cities with rulers whose lifespans defy explanation. When a civilization combines real geography, real political structures, and impossible lifespans, researchers naturally ask, what were the scribes trying to preserve? Some scholars argue the long durations could reflect dynasties, not individuals. But the text explicitly says one king. Not a family line, not a house, one person. Others argue these numbers represent astronomical cycles. But the transitions in the text don't match known celestial patterns. And others note that many ancient cultures describe early humans, gods, or rulers with extremely long lives. Egypt, China, India, and even the Hebrew Bible contain similar claims. This doesn't prove anything, but it does show the pattern wasn't unique to Sumer. There is a final detail that often gets overlooked. Near the end of the King List, after listing normal human kings, the tablet ends abruptly. No explanation, no summary, no attempt to clarify anything. It simply stops. It's as if the scribes were saying, "This is the record. Take it or leave it." If someone you know loves direct, documentary-style content about ancient mysteries, feel free to share this video with them. Because in the end, the Sumerian King List leaves us with one of the oldest unanswered questions in human history. Did the Sumerians exaggerate their earliest rulers? Or were they recording something they truly believed,